Now let's see the bones of face. In the bones of cranium, we have seen that there are two different groups of bones, the cranial bones and the facial bones. We have seen the cranial bones, and now we will see about the facial bones. There are 13 different bones which form the facial bones. They are two zygomatic bones, one maxilla, one mandible, two lacrimal bones, two palatine bones, two nasal bones, one vomer, and two inferior concave. These are the 13 facial bones. These are the 13 facial bones. Apart from this, there is another bone which is called as hyoid bone, which also forms a part of the bones of cranium, but which is not associated with any of the bones. Now let's see them in detail. There is a zygomatic bone which forms articulation with the zygomatic process of temporal bone, which forms the arch of the cheekbone, and this zygomatic bone also it forms the base and lateral walls of the orbital cavities, and they are also called as the cheekbones. And the other bone is maxillary bone, or it is also called as maxilla or upper jaw bone. This maxilla, it originates as two bones but fuses before birth into one. The maxillary bone, it forms the anterior roof of the mouth, and this also has downward projections called as alveolar ridges or processes which are necessary for holding the teeth. They also form the part of base of the nasal cavity. They also form the part of base of orbital cavities and also the lateral walls of nasal cavity. This maxilla also consists of maxillary sinuses which open into the nasal cavity, and these are lined with ciliated mucous epithelium, apart from giving attachment to the upper teeth. Next we will see the nasal bones. There are two nasal bones which form the bridge of the nasal, form the bridge of the nose. They form the superior and lateral surfaces of this nose. There are two lacrimal bones which are posterior and lateral to the top nasal bones, and this lacrimal bones have a foramina which allows the passage of nasolacrimal duct, through which the tears from the medial canthus of eye are carried to the nasal cavity. We have seen there is one vomer, and this vomer, it is perpendicular and it arises from the posterior region of the roof of the mouth, that is from the hard palate, and this forms a part of nasal septum and divides the nasal cavity into two, whereas superiorly the nasal septum consists of perpendicular plate of ethmoid bone. So the perpendicular plate of ethmoid bone and the vomer together constitutes the nasal septum, which divides the nasal cavity into two. There are two palatine bones. These palatine bones are L-shaped bones, and the horizontal portions of this L-shaped palatine bones, they form the posterior region of the roof of the mouth, that is the hard palate, whereas the L whereas the perpendicular parts of this bone, it forms the lateral walls of nasal cavity, and the upper extremities of this perpendicular parts, it forms a part of the orbital cavities. There are two inferior concave. Now let's see the other bones of face, the inferior concave. We have seen the superior concave and the middle concave are a part of lateral walls of ethmoid bone, and the inferior concave also have the same purpose, and these are having a scroll shaped structures, and these also are necessary for increasing the surface area of the nasal cavity. This increase in surface area will enhance the amount of humidification and warming of the air that is entering into the nasal cavity. The other bone of face is mandible. This mandible is also called as the lower jaw, and this is the only movable bone in the face. Before birth, this mandible, it occurs as two bones and it fuses into one later on. It has two parts, the curved body and the ramus. The curved body has the alveolar ridges which holds the teeth, whereas the ramus is the one which projects upwards almost at right angles at the end of the body. And superiorly, this ramus, it consists of two processes. They are the condyloid process and the coronoid process. This condyloid process gives attachment with that of temporal bone to form the temporomandibular joint, whereas the coronoid process gives attachment to the muscles which facilitate the movement of lower jaw and helps in chewing. The other bone of the face is the hyoid bone. Though it does not have any direct contact with the other bones, this horseshoe shaped bone, it gives attachment to the larynx, muscles of the tongue, and also to the base of the tongue. Hyoid bone is also attached to the styloid process of temporal bone by ligaments. These are the various bones of face. Now we will come across another term called as fontanelles. At birth, the cranial sutures are not completely ossified. This facilitates the development of brain in the child, in the infant before birth, and also for some months after the birth. And these regions where the sutures are not completely ossified are called as fontanelles. Here there appears to be a distinct membranous areas, and these fontanelles are many, but the most prominent are the anterior fontanelle and the posterior fontanelle. This anterior fontanelle, it takes up to 1 to 1.5 years after the birth for ossification, whereas the posterior fontanelle, it fuses within 2 to 3 months after the birth. Now let's see the functions of cranium. This cranium, it acts as a wall and it protects the underlying structure, mainly the brain, whereas the orbital cavity protects the eye and it also gives attachment to the muscles which allow the movement of eyeball. The temporal bone, it gives the delicate structures of a brain. The temporal bone, it protects the delicate structures of the inner ear, whereas the sinuses which are present in the cranial bones and facial bones will facilitate resonance of the voice. The bones of the face, they form the nasal cavity and which facilitate the movement of air into the nasal cavity, whereas the maxilla and mandible, they have alveolar ridges which gives attachment to the teeth, and maxilla and mandible together with the muscles facilitate the chewing movement of the mandible and facilitates in speech. These are the various functions of cranium. Now let's see the other bones of axial skeleton. We have seen cranial bones. Now let us see the vertebrae, or which form the vertebral column. There are about 26 vertebrae in the vertebral column. Of these 26 vertebrae, 24 are individual vertebrae and the other 2 vertebrae are formed by a fusion of various vertebrae. We will see them in detail. And these vertebrae are divided into different, and these vertebrae are divided into different regions and they are named accordingly. The first 7 vertebrae are classified as cervical spine, and these vertebrae are called as cervical vertebrae and they are numbered from C1 to C7, whereas the next 12 vertebrae are called as thoracic vertebrae and they are numbered from T1 to T12, and the next 5 vertebrae are called as lumbar vertebrae and these are numbered from L1 to L5. After which comes the sacrum, which is formed by a fusion of 5 vertebrae, and the coccyx, which is made up of fusion of 3 to 5 vertebrae. In this way, the 26 vertebrae are present in the vertebral column. Now let's see the common characteristics of a typical vertebrae. Any vertebrae in general will have a body and a vertebral arc, and this vertebral arc is also called as neural arc. The body of the vertebrae is a flattened surface and this is present anteriorly, whereas body is the one which forms an articulation with that of adjacent vertebrae's body. It means when all the vertebrae are stacked in an order, the bodies of individual vertebrae form an articulation with the adjacent vertebrae, but there won't be any direct contact between these vertebrae. They have an intervertebral disc, which is a fibrocartilage that is present between these bodies of 2 adjacent vertebrae. And the size of the body gradually increases as we move downwards. It means the size of the body will be the smallest in the case of cervical vertebrae and will be the largest in the case of lumbar vertebrae, because the lower regions of the vertebral column have to bear the weight of the body. The next region is the neural arc, or also called as vertebral arc. So this lies posterior to the top body and this also lies posterior to the vertebral column. This vertebral arc, it consists of lateral walls and posterior walls. The lateral walls are also called as pedicles, whereas the posterior walls are called as lamina. The pedicle and the lamina combine to form the transverse process, whereas 2 lamina combine to form the spinous process. And this spinous process, it lies posteriorly and can be felt through the skin from top to the bottom of the top vertebral column. And within this vertebral arc lies the vertebral foramen, and this vertebral foramens of all the vertebrae together form the vertebral canal through which the spinal cord passes from the brain to that of lower regions of vertebrae. These are the common characteristics of vertebrae, and there will be slight modifications in these structures in individual vertebrae, and we will see them in detail.